tonight. So I'm here with Tim Gillett, and he's here at ABD Norwich to do a seminar on ground fighting tonight. He's going to work with the kids and the adults. And I just want to take a couple minutes, sir, and ask you a couple questions, just so everybody kind of gets to know who you are. I've been trying to describe you to people, but you're kind of a tough character to nail down. So, so you have a background in a lot of different martial arts. I know you've done like Kali. You've done obviously the submission stuff. I've even heard you trained with, done the Dog Brothers thing. Could you let us know your history?
Yeah, I started martial arts when I was a kid. I used to get beat up every day. In school, I just had that face people want to punch, and I just was tired of getting beat up, so I started with Taekwondo, and I liked it. It was good. It was down in Fall River with a guy named Master Kwan Sat Lee, and it was good, but it wasn't what I needed. I was still getting beat up. Yeah. Moved on to some Kempo organizations, did some Kempo work, and then things started changing. I was a little more, I started to get a little more self-esteem, things like that, and then I really spent most of my time doing Filipino martial arts. I worked with Grandmaster Remy Precis, and that kind of opened up a whole new thing for me, because to me mixed martial arts is not only can you grapple on the ground, can you do your stand-up fighting, but can you fight weapons and defend against weapons and things like that. Which is, theory of Krav Maga and things like that. Yeah. So I started doing that right away, and I stayed with the Kempo. The Kempo people didn't like that. At that time, you couldn't cross-train. Right. So we're talking early 90s, so yeah. I was cross-training, and the Kempo organizations were getting a little upset with me, because I was doing Filipino martial arts on weekends and then doing Kempo during the week. Yeah. So that didn't work out too well for a while. So I was training freelancing type of work. That's what they called it back then, So it got real exciting, because I was able to go to California. I ran into the Dog Brothers, and those guys were, at that time, they were still real primitive what they were doing. And I got to work with them. I did like 2 or 3 of the Dog Brother seminars and things like that. And that's when it just opened up everything for me with the reality-based fighting, which is what we needed, at that time. And I stuck with them, and then I was training at that time with Joe Ribello out of the New Bedford area, because he was the only guy I knew at the time that could do stick fighting. No one else around was doing it. Not in the Fall River area, anyway. And he sent me out to see Jason DeLucia, who was at that time fighting in the UFC. He was UFC 1 and 2. And I went out there, and I did what they call a tryout for them, because he was with the Lions Den. Yeah. And he was big with Ken Shamrock, and so there was him and Hagar Chin. And I would go there, and I went there, and I did this tryout thing, and I failed. So I'm like, this isn't good, They made me do a lot of, I was big and fat then, so they made me do a bunch of squats and jumping jacks and a lot of cardio stuff. Yeah. And I failed. So I called him back, asked him if I could try it again. I went back, I failed again. So then, basically, the story of Tim Gillett is we just fail our way to the top, because we just kept going, calling him again. Yeah. So I failed 3 times, and I never passed his test still to this day. Really? I never passed the Shamrock Lions Den test ever. I've heard about that. Thing's legendary. I never passed it. Yeah. And but we just failed our way to the top. I stuck with DeLucia. He called me back and said, "You know what, kid? Just come out here, because you're not doing good with the cardio, but I'll train you." And he trained me for free. He trained in, I trained in Woonsocket, Rhode Island at Stan Bogdan School every morning. I was working at the prison at the time. I did 10 years at Walpole Prison and Bay State Correctional. And I would go there every morning after my shift, and we would train. And I just basically got beat up for almost a year, maybe 2. I never beat him. He was always better than me. And but he didn't really teach me so much techniques or that aspect of it. He taught me how to be a fighter. Yeah. And how a fighter lives, how a fighter thinks, and what you need to do in order to be better at what you do. And I think that now, I'm 40 years old now. I think I can pass the test if he wants to test me. Yeah. There you go. But it only took me about 20 years to do it. Whatever. But so I stuck with him, and then I just opened in Fall River. Started doing work with the Shamrock organization through Jason and through Hagar Chin. Jason moved on to doing his stuff. I stayed in Fall River doing my things, and I stuck with the Anis Eskrima Kali. Did a lot of work with Dan Inosanto's organization. not so much always with Dan, but his people, which is nice, you know. But with the PCS5 system is what we're all becoming pretty, you know, famous for in Fall River. We kind of started to just, again, fail our way to the top. We looked at the material and said, what's working and what's not? And then we petitioned a lot of the top organizations in the world, from things from Sambo to going all the way down to military-style grappling and things like that.
Yeah, combatives.
And, yeah, we just kind of asked everybody. We said, well, if you're in, we'll say side mount. If you're in side mount, what's the top position and what's the best submission that works in side mount? And they said, well, it's key lock, Americana, paintbrush, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
All different people have all different lingo for it, you know? So we said, all right, if that's number one, we'll ask everybody. So we asked, let's say we asked 10 of the top organizations. And let's say 8 of them said key lock, Americana, paintbrush. So we said, all right, we'll use that. You know? Because 8 people said it was good. These are the top people in the world. So we might as well use that. So let's just work on that. And that's what we worked on. We picked 5 positions. And we picked 5 of the top ratio-wise successful techniques that work every time flawlessly.
Right.
And we blended that together, and we married that together with each technique. So that way, when you're moving, you're creating a world in grappling for yourself that keeps you safe. It's effective in street, and it's effective with weapons. But most importantly, for the people who are doing MMA and cage fighting, it's effective in the cage because there's no weapons involved. So PCS5 is very weapons-based, but when you take the weapons away, it gets real like close quarter understanding of what your responsibility is in just the simple 5 positions, which are the dominant positions of grappling. And that's where I went with it over the, you know, how things went along. Altogether, I have 5 black belts. And none of them are in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
But we have become famous, you know, with the PCS5 system, which is a Jiu-Jitsu program.
Right.
So we keep it as a submission fighting program. People are using it. There's 12 schools using it now. And that's when I talked to Master Tran, I told him that we have 12 schools. He said, that's awesome. He goes, where's all the schools? I said, well, up and down Route 24 in Massachusetts. He said, you got 12 schools just on Route 24?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, well, basically, you know, in that area. He said, that's awesome, because we haven't really got out yet. We haven't left yet and said, let's go show this in Colorado.
Right.
Let's go show this in California. Let's go show it in anywhere, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to want it.
Yeah.
And the reason they want it is it's quick to learn. You don't have to spend too much time with the curriculum to understand that the curriculum works quickly. It's basically a Krav Maga theory because it's the best of the best.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. It's the best of the best work, and just get really, really good at it.
Yeah.
And that's what's been happening. Is that people, you know, want to do it. People enjoy doing it, and it makes them feel good that they can do it. Where they're not coming in going, "This is way too hard." Because I've been to classes where I'm like, "Where's he going with this?
Yeah.
This is way too complicated."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to work out good. I know it's working out good for the people that are using it. People are making money with it, and the kids love it because it's safe. The parents like it because the kids are doing something that they're not, you know, getting hurt, doing the work, and the adults are using it in the cage. So, you know, it's an ongoing process.